Hello, and welcome to an adventure like no other. Far more than what you have known, there is something far more to be known than you can ever know. And it is all about you, the real you, your real awareness with your intuitive senses. You were never taught that the real you, your real awareness, is operating 5 bodies in cause and effect, restricting creation. You have been taught to think that you are only a one-dimensional human person, with a mind and emotions, and with a very short lifespan on this planet Earth. More than what your mind can grasp is your intuitive senses that can be opened to see beyond all your restrictions. You have always had an opening to see beyond what you have known, and this has been purposely kept from you, and this is where you have heard rumors and stories about your nightly dreams. Your so-called dreams is your opening to your intuitive senses that will allow you, the personal you, to excel beyond what you have previously known. Everyone has intuitive senses, and very few people take advantage of what is possible by recognizing something more than their mind can understand. Creation has its place for all of us, and then there is all life, which is far more than anything than what can become with creation. Everything we experience is necessary for us to survive with whatever we choose and decide our life to be. New Kevin Smith is the great witness to something more than what can be taught and learned in any school. It can be so that when anyone first listens to Kevin's intuitive side experiences, also known as real side experiences, from what their personal mind has known, Kevin's manner of expression will at first be rather different to comprehend. This is where this introduction and reading the new books and Facebook groups will help. Have fun deciding. DUANE the Great Writer and Seer.
At the risk of sounding repetitive, so I would find myself in the aftermath of an apocalyptic situation that had befallen the entirety of the Earth. These globally impacting catastrophic Earth experiences have been a relatively common theme of late, not only through the real side experiences I have received and shared, but those of other new friends also. Everything that features as the human experience is determined by the idea agreements prevalent in the overall human consciousness. For it is the consciousness, individually, or in the case of entire species, collectively, that affects the simulated experiences in accordance with the ideas that it contains. Simulation as made available via the body forms, much like a computer presents the graphics of the games it contains on the screen as rendered from the data files the game comprises of. That the Dark Force reptilians have control of the human race as a species is basically by virtue of humanity deciding that this is so. For as the deciders, individually or collectively, nothing can feature as experience unless the ideas are present in a consciousness, including the ability of other beings or species to impose adversely. The human race has then agreements extended to the controllers as ideas consciousness installed, which allow the ability of the Dark Force reptilians to operate in suppressive, constricting, and destructive ways that perpetuate the enslaved situation that is the human experience in relation to the reptilians that assume then the afforded, agreed-to capacity and role as humanity's dominators. The foundation of the human experience is that of a controlled situation, but for humanity's circumstances to become even more restricted, so this requires additional agreements that effect as escalating controlling measures, agreements that allow the controllers to advance their agendas for human enslavement. Within human consciousness, then, will be all manner of ideas of a controlling, suppressing nature, courtesy of the dark force reptilians that have ensured their installation. Currently, the dark forces desire humanity's experience to proceed along more catastrophic, cataclysmic lines, that at the very least depopulation can be achieved, and at the most extreme, complete human eradication and genocide, and perhaps even planetary destruction. There will be many variations of the apocalyptic idea theme installed in human consciousness, for even though every idea of consciousness is in effect now in isness reality terms, the consciousness design dictates a gradual rollout and processing of these already completed ideas to effect actualization on the physical level. There is a delay factor between the cause and the effect. Picture a collection of movies contained on DVD disc. Every movie is complete, but only the movie selected will be experienced, and the movie's end only reached after the completed movie has been processed through from start to a conclusion. Should the movie be exchanged part way through for another, so an alternative effect, movie's outcome, is now being processed toward. Just as it is in regards to consciousness and the idea agreements contained therein, that only the idea held to in prominence over all others is being processed through to physical level culmination, and only will be effected if maintained as such until the effect is reached. The controllers then have ensured many variations of the effect they desire manifested, that of depopulation, annihilation scenarios are present in human consciousness, which increases the chance that one of their ideas will become as physical level manifest. On the real side, then, we can be shown any of the potential catastrophic dark force created ideas that are human consciousness present, as I indeed have been chronicling over the years. Generally, what is shown moment by moment are then the current agreements being held to. The effect trajectory humanity as a species is hurtling toward, but agreement that can change, and so that which we are shown may not necessarily come to pass, assuming an alternative agreement replaces it. And so it was that I was operating in the aftermath of a dark force instigated, though agreed to, catastrophic global occurrence, and although specifics regarding the exact cause wasn't made apparent, the damage had been done, the human race drastically depopulated, the cities of the world in ruin. I would find myself in the company of a group of survivors, which again is a common theme in association with these apocalyptic views of late, that of my being present within them, and not simply observing from an aside from the simulation, real awareness view position. That where I do feature, I am generally attempting to assist key individual participants, that although through their agreements, so they are embroiled in the effects humanity overall are experiencing, for as we hold to the controller programmed human consciousness, we are resigned to the effects that become manifest from it. Such a future view so-called experiences reveal these particular humans that move into awareness positions where they afford themselves more options than the average, one-dimensional, completely consciousness-embracing and immersed human, and where I can insert myself into these idea-affected scenarios and afford such humans my assistance. For as the deciders of everything we experience, we only have opportunity and options according to the restrictions and limitations we alleviate. Those on their awareness processes will be releasing their consciousness agreement limitations, which allows a greater liberation where their creational positioning is concerned, and allows the means by which others can feature in their experiences and assist them. We have to be open to assistance that it can be provided. In this case, I was seemingly ensuring the survival of the particular group I was in the company of, as though identified as individuals who were perhaps making their first tentative steps into the unknown endlessness of life and the true reality of their real awareness selves, in the midst of the post-apocalyptic situation they had effected for themselves as experience, but which facilitated the role I could step into, where I could enter their simulated midst, and as though guide them more effectively through the perils of a post-apocalyptic Earth, enhancing their chances of survival. For as the deciders of our experience, we extend the roles others can assume in relation to ourselves, be they our oppressors, dominators, or assistance providers and rescuers. My group comprised of 2 older men, the approximate age of 50 or thereabouts, an elderly woman in her 70s, I would estimate, and a younger man of around 20 or so. Although the group in its entirety gave indication of stepping up, awareness, and is recognizing wise, it was the elderly female who was the most advanced with her process, but she would not be parted from her group, and so they rather came as a package, and thus I was ensuring the survival of the entire group. The elder men were rather reckless and irresponsible, and I would be ceaselessly trying to impress upon them the need to focus and follow my lead and direction, as it were. Despite this, I managed to keep the group alive as I navigated them through the dangers that post-apocalyptic Earth posed as. For as you can imagine, the resources that had survived were rather limited and sought after by the human survivors. Altercation and the killing of each other over what remained was typical. We were constantly on the move, negotiating our way through the decimated streets of whichever country of the world we happened to be in, but we could just as well have been anywhere, for this was a global impacting situation, as I said. Interestingly, I would see 2 young children of the age of 10 or so luring stray dogs and proceeding to trap and devour them. Why this particular feature drew my attention was unclear, though in my real side experiences of late, so have 2 children been featuring, but children that impressions reveal are something other than what they outwardly appear to be, as though agents of destruction or deception, as they have a tendency to be in the capacity of, operating in the human experience, but not strictly a part of humanity at the same time. And impressions suggested these again were these very 2 children. They always have a tendency to feature in alternative child forms in my previous encounters of them, and again here their appearances differed. They would pay the group and myself no attention as they persisted in baiting dogs and consuming them. I would lead my group now to an environmental setting, but one that seemed removed from the overall apocalyptic Earth scenario, as though we had transitioned to an alternative dimension. As I mentioned earlier, the awareness process affords more options, as it entails a facing and releasing of the ideas which effect as restriction, including our creational positioning, and another theme of real side experiences of late has been the opportunities made available to the nufriends and humans on their awareness process in the event of situations on the Earth which make the planet unsuitable for the continuation of the awareness process, and where relocation is an option. And in this experience, I had seemingly led the group of humans through the destroyed and depopulated Earth, through a dimensional rift, to an alternative position where present would be a larger number of assorted beings on their awareness processes, including nufriends, a number of which I would recognize. Present also would be a female, though as impressions revealed, she not only was on her process of awareness, as it is an endless endeavour, but she recognized the years through her real awareness, as is the purpose and objective of all real awareness. Interestingly, she would not be a guide, impressions instead revealing she was a DUANE. I have encountered female versions of DUANE before on the real side, and despite then the gender being opposite, it is the same being, very possibly an aspect or version of him taking a female form. For in reality, the real awareness that we all are is an everything true reality position, undefined and unlimited by ideas of creation, including body forms and genders, which are simply vehicles for awareness to operate through and animate. This female version or aspect of DUANE harboured the same sincerity of real intent. As I said, impressions were of recognition of the years, and also the same motivation as the physical level DUANE, that of the compulsion to assist all awareness speaking, which is the essence of life, that of a support for all, as we all are a part of and within the same life. I had then assisted the group that they had progressed to an extent that they were in alignment with this larger body of aware beings and nufriends, and as we come into alignment intent-wise, so our experiences converge. The group, now a part of this larger and seemingly relocated from the apocalyptic Earth situation gathering of beings, in association with one of DUANE's many multi-dimensional aspects, in what was a very lush and pristine environmental setting. Remaining in the overall scene, though no longer needing to personally oversee the group of humans' safety, those I had led through apocalyptic Earth to the dimensional position we all now were in, I would spend a little time amusing myself by levitating across the landscape as though on invisible wings. One of the nufriends would be captivated by such ability, and based on such a demonstration, she seemed to think I had knowledge as to the whereabouts of something she sought, for she would be requesting that I take her to the tree. Exactly what tree she was referring to wasn't made apparent, my personal self oblivious, and no real awareness impressions would afford a clarification, and so I was unable to assist her. Initially, she would be in human form, but as she made her request for the tree's location, she became more so a curious alien body type, more that of a diminutive grey alien form, and from there she would transform herself into a black cat. Impressions revealed she harboured no ill intent, or malicious inclination, or deception, but rather she was becoming increasingly captivated by the notion of magic. Nothing wrong with utilising the psychic science facility of the ethereal body, the seat of what would be considered paranormal ability, as long as it, like all ideas, are recognised as the restrictions they are, and not clung to as realities or absolutes. But this female new friend was rather desiring to pursue such ability in favour and at the expense of her real awareness, isness recognising focus and intent, and the tree that she sought was something she felt would enhance her developing creational abilities further, even to the extent of her offering to bestow upon me the same powers she had developed should I reveal the tree's location, and restored momentarily to her human form, she placed her hand upon me and delivered quite the shock of energy into my chest, as though as a demonstration of her powers. But as I said, my personal self knew nothing of the tree of which she spoke, nor were any impressions forthcoming regarding it, and she would transform back into her black cat form. Just as the awareness process can liberate us from the restriction that the ideas of consciousness effect as, in regards to creational positioning, that allowed the option of dimensional relocation from the apocalyptic Earth, so the opposite holds true, should we perhaps forfeit or step back from our awareness process, if we, say, become enamoured with the psychic sciences, as this new friend clearly was. For indeed, in her black cat form, she would fade from the environmental, other dimensional scene. I would follow to as though determine her self-decided fate, and she would be returned to the earth apocalyptic situation, as though reinsertion into such effects through the consciousness now re-embraced by virtue of her psychic science magic infatuation. Additionally, she not only was retained as the form of a cat, but would be a mechanical, robotic one. For as the consciousness design is reflected in the body forms we assume and our creational positioning, not only was the new friend returned to the apocalyptic Earth scenario and effect, but her cat form was mechanical. For as we formulate the consciousness to be ever more restricting as to its structure, so the body types reflect this restriction. An expression of this can be the assumption of robotic or mechanical forms, and this appeared to be what was being demonstrated here. So much for the lure and thrill of the psychic sciences, but overall we all make our choices. The group I had assisted made theirs. They became a part of the other new friends and aware beings who were afforded safe haven should such apocalyptic Earth scenarios come to pass, all subject to and dependent upon agreement, as I mentioned. But despite the more favourable positions in life we can facilitate for ourselves, important is the maintenance of intent with the ears, that not only such positions are perpetuated, but progressively greater positioning with the true reality can be so, and eventually negating the necessity of the simulators altogether. And all too easy can it be for the ideas of creation to lure us in, and we restrict and limit ourselves in accordance, as exemplified by the female new friend in this experience.